My name is Sophie, and I'm about to tell you about the night I finally understood that blood doesn't make you family, respect does. I thought I'd prepared myself for my sister's wedding, steeled myself against the familiar sting of being overlooked. But when I arrived at that glittering venue and discovered where they'd seated me, not at a distant table, not in a corner, but literally in the hallway outside the reception, something inside me finally snapped. What happened next shocked everyone, including me. But sometimes the most powerful thing you can do is simply walk away. The Fairmont Hotel loomed before me, its Art Deco facade glowing against the Seattle skyline. October rain misted the windshield as I sat in my car, gathering courage. Inside, 200 guests would celebrate my sister Charlotte's marriage to Benjamin Ashford III. The invitation heavyweight cardstock with gold foil lettering had arrived exactly 6 weeks ago. Just enough time to RSVP, not enough to claim I'd made other plans. I smoothed my emerald dress one last time. Not too flashy, not too plain. The perfect outfit for someone trying to be invisible while still meeting the dress code. 28 years of practice had taught me exactly how to exist in Charlotte's shadow without causing ripples. Inside, crystal chandeliers cast rainbow patterns across marble floors, lilies and roses. Charlotte's favorites naturally created an intoxicating perfume that couldn't quite mask the underlying scent of old money and older grudges. A string quartet played Pachelbel's canon as guests mingled with champagne flutes. Name: the wedding coordinator, a severe woman with a tablet, barely glanced up. Sophie Winters. My voice came out steady, practiced. Her fingers swiped across the screen. A frown creased her Botox-smooth forehead. Winters. Winters. She tapped again, then forced a professional smile that didn't reach her eyes. Ah, here you are. Table 27. Something in her tone made my stomach clench. 27. She gestured vaguely toward the ballroom entrance. Just past the main reception area. You'll see the number markers. I walked through the golden doors into a wonderland of twinkling lights and elaborate centerpieces. Round tables draped in ivory silk filled the space, each topped with towering floral arrangements. I scanned for table 27, moving past the dance floor, past the head table where Charlotte would hold court, past tables 1 through 26. The ballroom ended at an archway leading to a service corridor. There, beside a coat rack and emergency exit sign, sat a single round table with a modest carnation centerpiece. Table 27. My place card, the same elegant calligraphy as everyone else's, confirmed it. Sophie Winters, table 27. They'd literally seated me in the hallway. For a moment, I just stood there processing the deliberate cruelty of it. Not just a bad table that I could have handled, but this. This was a message clear as the crystal glasses inside. You don't belong here. Sophie. I turned to find Benjamin's mother, Eleanor Ashford, studying me with sharp hazel eyes. Everything about her radiated old Boston money, from her understated Chanel suit to the single strand of pearls at her throat. Mrs. Ashford. I managed to smile. Her gaze flicked to my table, then back to me. Something shifted in her expression, not pity exactly, but recognition. Interesting seating arrangement. Before I could respond, a familiar laugh rang out from inside the ballroom. Charlotte swept into view, resplendent in a dress that probably cost more than my car. Our mother Diane fluttered beside her, adjusting the cathedral-length veil with reverent fingers. Charlotte's eyes found mine. Her perfect red lips curved into a smile that transported me back 20 years to every school play where I sat in the audience, while she starred every birthday party where her cake had more candles every Christmas, where her pile of presents dwarfed mine. Sophie. She glided over, embracing me with air kisses that carefully avoided actual contact. You made it. Wouldn't miss it. The lie came easily. Diane barely acknowledged me, too busy straightening Charlotte's train. When she finally looked up, her expression was one of mild inconvenience, as if I were a catering hiccup she needed to smooth over. Darling, you look. She paused, searching for a word that wasn't quite an insult. Appropriate. Thanks, Mom. I gestured toward my table. There seems to be some confusion about the seating. Oh, that. Diane waved dismissively. We had to make some last-minute adjustments. Benjamin's family is larger than we anticipated, and of course we had to prioritize accordingly. Prioritize? As if I were a line item in a budget easily cut. Charlotte's smile widened. I'm sure you understand, Sophie. These things happen with big weddings. So many details, something always slips through the cracks. Slips through the cracks. Like I had over and over my whole life. Eleanor Ashford cleared her throat. Charlotte, shouldn't you be getting ready for your entrance? Something passed between the two women, a look I couldn't quite read. Charlotte's smile faltered for just a second before reasserting itself. Of course. Come on, Mother. She linked arms with Diane, then paused to look back at me. Enjoy the reception, Sophie. Try the salmon, it's divine. They swept away in a cloud of tulle and lily perfume, leaving me alone with Eleanor and my hallway table. You know, Eleanor said quietly, in my experience, the most interesting people are often seated furthest from the main event. She studied me with those sharp eyes. The question is, will you take your seat, or will you choose a different path? Before I could ask what she meant, she glided back into the ballroom, leaving me with a decision that would change everything. I stood at the threshold between the glittering ballroom and my dingy hallway exile, watching guests find their seats at proper tables with proper centerpieces. Laughter echoed off crystal chandeliers while I remained frozen, a ghost at my own sister's wedding. The rational part of me whispered, just sit down. Endure it. 3 hours and you can leave. But my feet wouldn't move toward that pathetic table. Instead, memories flooded back, years of similar moments that I'd swallowed like bitter medicine. 3 years ago. Mom's birthday dinner. I'd made reservations at her favorite restaurant only to arrive and find they'd forgotten to include me in the count. Charlotte breezily suggested I could sit at the bar and join them for dessert. I did, watching my family laugh over courses I'd helped pay for but wasn't invited to share. 5 years ago, Charlotte's college graduation, 2 tickets for family. Sophie won't mind, Mom had said, giving my ticket to Charlotte's roommate instead. She's so understanding. I'd stood outside the auditorium listening to the ceremony through closed doors. 8 years ago. The notebook. That memory cut deepest. I'd been helping Mom organize during a visit home when I'd found her journal in the desk drawer. Pages and pages devoted to Charlotte, her achievements, her struggles, her favorite everything. Birthday gift ideas stretching back years, plans for her future. I'd flipped through the entire notebook. Not one mention of me, not my college acceptance, not my promotion, not even my birthday. When I'd confronted Mom, she'd seemed genuinely puzzled by my hurt. Oh, Sophie, you've always been so independent. I never needed to worry about you like I do Charlotte. As if neglect were a compliment, as if being forgotten were a badge of honor. Now, standing at my sister's wedding with my hallway assignment, I finally understood. This wasn't oversight or inconvenience. This was exactly where they thought I belonged, adjacent to their lives but never truly part of them. Champagne. A server appeared at my elbow tray, balanced perfectly. I almost laughed. Even the staff looked uncomfortable finding me out here. No, thank you. My phone buzzed. Marcus, my college roommate. How's the wedding, send pics? I stared at the screen, thumb hovering over the keyboard. What could I say? Great. They seated me by the emergency exit in case there's a fire. Inside the ballroom, the music swelled. Through the archway, I watched my father Robert escort Charlotte down an aisle strewn with rose petals. He beamed with pride I'd never seen directed at me. Diane dabbed at tears that flowed freely for her golden child. That's when I made my decision. Not in anger, not in some dramatic moment of rebellion, but with the quiet certainty of someone who finally understood their worth wasn't determined by a family that refused to see it. I picked up my place card from table 27. Such elegant calligraphy for such an ugly message. Then I turned and walked back through the lobby past the coat check where I retrieved my wrap past the doorman who wished me a pleasant evening. The October rain had stopped leaving the Seattle streets gleaming under streetlights. I sat in my car for a long moment waiting to feel something regret, sadness, guilt. Instead, there was only a strange lightness as if I'd set down a weight I'd carried so long I'd forgotten I was holding it. My phone rang. Mom. I let it go to voicemail. Then Charlotte. Then Dad. Then unknown numbers, probably other family members recruited to bring me back. I turned off my phone and drove home. My apartment had never felt more welcoming. Small but mine with its exposed brick and houseplants I'd kept alive, despite Charlotte insisting I had a black thumb. I poured a glass of wine, kicked off my heels, and curled up on the couch with a book I'd been meaning to finish. 3 chapters in the buzzer rang, then rang again, and again. I ignored it until my elderly neighbor Mrs. Chen knocked on my door. Sophie dear, there's quite a commotion downstairs. Through the peephole I saw Charlotte in her wedding dress, mascara streaking her cheeks while Benjamin stood behind her looking deeply uncomfortable. Mom was there too, her face a mask of fury. I opened the door but didn't invite them in. How dare you? Mom started but Charlotte cut her off. You left. She said it like an accusation, like a betrayal of cosmic proportions. You just left. Yes, but it's my wedding. I noticed. Congratulations. Charlotte's mouth opened and closed like a fish gasping for air. Behind her, Benjamin shifted awkwardly, and I caught him glancing at his watch. How long had they been gone from their own reception? You're being selfish, Mom snapped. Childish, dramatic. No, I said calmly. I'm being honest. You seated me in a hallway, not even inside the actual reception. What exactly did you expect? It was just logistics, Charlotte began. Stop. I held up my hand. We both know it wasn't. Just like we both know this isn't really about tonight. Silence stretched between us, years of unspoken truths filling the space. Get dressed, Mom ordered. You're coming back with us right now. No, I'm not. Sophie. I'm done. The words came out quiet but final. I'm done pretending we're a family when you've made it clear I'm just an obligation. I'm done being grateful for scraps of attention. I'm done shrinking myself to make Charlotte shine brighter. Charlotte's tears had stopped, replaced by something harder. You've always been jealous. No, Charlotte. I've always been invisible. There's a difference. I looked at each of them, my mother who'd documented every moment of Charlotte's life while forgetting mine. My sister who'd built her identity on being the favorite. And Benjamin who had the grace to look embarrassed by the whole scene. Go back to your wedding, I said. Enjoy your spotlight. But I won't sit in the hallway of your life anymore. I closed the door on their shocked faces and turned the deadbolt for good measure. Later, as their voices faded down the hallway and presumably back to their party, I returned to my book and wine. My phone still off, sat silent on the coffee table. For the first time in 28 years, I didn't wonder what my family was thinking or how to fix things between us. I simply existed in my own space on my own terms, finally understanding that the best seat in the house was the one I chose for myself. The knocking started at 7 a.m. Sharp, insistent raps that jerked me from the first peaceful sleep I'd had in years. Sophie, open this door right now. Mom. Of course. I pulled on my robe and padded to the door, checking the peephole first. She stood there in yesterday's mother of the bride outfit, now wrinkled and stained with what looked like red wine. Her usually perfect hair hung limp around her face. I opened the door but blocked the entrance with my body. Mom. Don't you mom me. She tried to push past, but I held firm. The wedding was ruined. Absolutely ruined. Charlotte cried for 2 hours. The Ashfords left early. Do you have any idea what you've done? I left a party where I wasn't wanted. That's all. Her laugh was bitter, bordering on hysterical. Not wanted. Your family. Am I? The question hung between us. Because family doesn't seat each other in hallways. She deflated slightly, running a manicured hand through her disheveled hair. It was just logistics. The Ashfords brought more people than expected. Stop. I was tired of the lies, tired of the excuses. We both know Charlotte requested that seating, just like we both know you approved it. Mom's face cycled through emotions, indignation, guilt, and finally a cold kind of resignation. She's my daughter. So am I. It's different with Charlotte. She needs me. And I don't. You never have. She said it like an accusation. Even as a baby, you were so self-sufficient. Charlotte would cry if I left the room, but you'd just play quietly by yourself. You didn't need me the way she did. I stared at her, finally understanding the twisted logic that had shaped my childhood. So you gave her everything and me nothing because I learned to survive without you. That's exactly what you did. Years of suppressed anger bubbled up, but my voice remained steady. And now you're angry because I finally stopped pretending it was enough. Mom's phone buzzed. She glanced at it and her face went pale. Oh God. The Ashfords are threatening to back out of the business merger. Charlotte's sobbing. Your father's having chest pains. Chest pains. Despite everything, concern flickered through me. She waved dismissively. You know how he gets when he's stressed. The point is, you need to fix this. I need to fix this. I almost laughed. I didn't ruin Charlotte's wedding. Charlotte ruined Charlotte's wedding by treating me like hired help she forgot to pay. You're being dramatic. No, Mom. For once, I'm being honest. She stared at me like I was a stranger. Maybe I was. The Sophie she knew would have apologized by now, would have rushed to smooth things over to make herself smaller so Charlotte could feel bigger. That Sophie was gone. I have to go, she said finally. Charlotte needs me. She always does. Mom turned to leave, then paused. You know Sophie family means sacrifice. Sometimes we have to put aside our own feelings for the greater good. I did that for 28 years. How's it working out for the greater good now? She didn't answer, just clicked down the hallway in her designer heels, leaving me standing in my doorway. I was making coffee when my phone finally turned back on, exploded with notifications. 53 missed calls, over 100 texts, voicemail boxes full. I scrolled through them, each more dramatic than the last. Charlotte. I can't believe you'd do this to me on my day. Dad. Your mother is beside herself. Call immediately. Aunt Patricia. Heard you caused quite a scene. Very disappointing. Unknown number. This is Eleanor Ashford. I'd like to speak with you. Please call at your convenience. That last one made me pause. Benjamin's mother wanted to talk. Before I could decide whether to return her call, another text came through. This time from Marcus. Saw Charlotte's Instagram meltdown. You okay, coffee? I screenshot Charlotte's Instagram story before she could delete it. There she was, mascara streaked and wilted in her wedding dress, with a long caption about toxic family members and narcissists who can't let others be happy. The comments were a mix of sympathy and curiosity. But what caught my attention were the few dissenting voices. Wait, why was your sister seated in the hallway? This seems like missing context. Charlotte, didn't you brag last week about putting her at the reject table? That last comment was quickly deleted, but I'd seen it. My doorbell rang again. This time I found Mrs. Chen holding a plate of homemade dumplings. I heard the commotion last night, she said gently. Thought you might need these. Tears pricked my eyes the first since this whole mess began. Thank you. She patted my hand. Family is complicated. But remember, dear, you can choose your boundaries even if you can't choose your relatives. After she left, I sat with her dumplings and my coffee watching the Seattle morning drizzle against my windows. My phone continued buzzing with the fallout from last night, but I didn't rush to answer any of it. Then Eleanor Ashford called again. This time, I answered. Sophie. Her voice was crisp but not unkind. I believe we should talk. Are you free for lunch? Mrs. Ashford, I don't think. Please, I have some information about your sister that you need to hear. And perhaps more importantly, that my son needs to hear. Something in her tone made me agree. We arranged to meet at a discreet cafe in Queen Anne in 2 hours. I dressed carefully, not to impress but to armor myself. Jeans, a cashmere sweater, boots. Comfortable, but put together. The opposite of last night's trying too hard dress. The cafe was nearly empty when I arrived. Eleanor sat in a corner booth looking immaculate despite what must have been a stressful night. She'd ordered tea for 2. Thank you for coming, she said as I sat down. I'm not sure why I'm here. She smiled a real smile, not the society version I'd seen at the wedding. Because you're the only honest person in your family, and I need honesty right now. About what? She pulled out her phone and showed me a series of screenshots, text messages between Charlotte and someone named Vanessa. My blood ran cold as I read them. Charlotte. Benjamin's mom is such a controlling bitch. Can't wait until we're married and I can cut her off. Vanessa. What about the family business, Charlotte? Please. Benjamin's too soft to say no to me. Give it a year and I'll be running that company. His mother can retire to her precious Martha's Vineyard house and stay there. There were more. Charlotte discussing Benjamin's usefulness, her plans to trade up, once she had access to the Ashford accounts, her mockery of Benjamin's stutter that appeared when he was nervous. Where did you get these? I asked, though I suspected I knew. Vanessa is my goddaughter, Eleanor said simply. She came to me last week with concerns about Charlotte's intentions. I've been investigating. And you want me to… what? Confirm your suspicions? I want you to tell me if this is who your sister really is. I looked at Eleanor Ashford, this woman who commanded boardrooms and charity galas with equal ease, and saw something I recognized. A mother protecting her child. Yes, I said quietly. This is who Charlotte is, who she's always been. Eleanor nodded, unsurprised but clearly saddened. I need to show these to Benjamin. He won't want to believe it. He loves her. He loves who she pretended to be. Eleanor's fingers traced the rim of her teacup. Just as your family loves who they've decided you should be rather than who you are. The truth of that statement hit harder than any of Mom's accusations. What will you do? I asked. What any mother would do, protect my son. The marriage can be annulled. We had a prenup that covers fraud. The business merger is obviously dead. She studied me. The question is, what will you do? What do you mean? Your family will blame you for this. When Charlotte's marriage falls apart, when their social standing crumbles, when the reality of who she is becomes undeniable, they'll need someone to blame. And that someone will be you. I knew she was right. It was always easier to blame me than face uncomfortable truths. Let them, I said, surprising myself with the firmness in my voice. Eleanor smiled again, and this time it reached her eyes. You know, Sophie, I have connections in the nonprofit world. Several organizations looking for someone with your background in project management, if you're interested in a fresh start. A fresh start. The words hung between us like a lifeline. Can I think about it? Of course. But Sophie? She leaned forward. Don't think too long. Sometimes the best decision is the one that takes us furthest from what's familiar. As I left the cafe, my phone buzzed with another text from Charlotte. This is all your fault. When Benjamin leaves me, I'll make sure everyone knows why. I deleted it without responding and walked back into the Seattle drizzle. For the first time in my life, I wasn't afraid of my family's blame or disappointment. They could keep their hallway tables and conditional love. I was done begging for a seat at their table. It was time to find my own. Charlotte's social media meltdown began at 2:47 p.m. on a Tuesday. I was in the middle of a job interview one of three Eleanor Ashford had arranged when my phone started vibrating incessantly. I'd silenced it, but the constant buzzing against the conference table was impossible to ignore. "I'm so sorry," I apologized to the interviewer. "I thought I'd turned it off completely." She waved it away with an understanding smile. "No worries. Why don't we take a 5-minute break?" In the hallway, I checked my phone to find dozens of notifications. Tags mentions messages all stemming from Charlotte's Instagram, where she'd posted what could only be described as a manifesto. The first image was her wedding photo overlaid with text, "When toxic family members try to destroy your happiness." I scrolled through the slideshow with growing disbelief. She'd posted screenshots of selective text messages, photos from family events where I wasn't present, implying I'd refused to attend rather than wasn't invited, and a long rambling caption about growing up with a narcissistic sister who couldn't stand to see her shine. But Charlotte had made a crucial mistake. In her emotional state, she'd included photos that actually proved my point. One showed the family at her college graduation, the one I'd been excluded from. Her caption read, "My biggest support system." Nay, not realizing viewers could clearly see the family seating 2 tickets only sign in the background. Another photo from last Christmas showed the family around the tree. Charlotte had written, "Some people choose to isolate themselves," but eagle-eyed followers noticed the gift tags visible in the photo. Multiple presents for Charlotte. None with my name. The comments section was already turning into a battlefield. "Wait, why are there no gifts for Sophie? Didn't you say she was jealous, but it looks like you guys left her out? This is giving missing reasons vibes. Charlotte, this isn't the serve you think it is." Then came the killing blow. Someone had found and reposted the wedding seating chart from the venue's Instagram story. There it was in black and white, every family member seated at tables 1-5 except for S. Winters' table 27. A follower who'd attended the wedding commented, "I was there. Table 27 was in the service hallway by the coat check. I thought it was for staff." The tide turned quickly after that. My phone rang. Marcus. "Sophie, are you seeing this?" His voice mixed concern with barely suppressed amusement. "Unfortunately." "She's making herself look unhinged. Half the comments are people calling her out for proving your point. Someone even found her old posts bragging about excluding you." "Of course they did." I sighed. Charlotte never learned that the internet is forever. "What are you going to do?" "Finish my job interview. I'm not engaging with this." "Smart. Let her dig her own grave." "By the way, did you see what your mom posted?" My stomach dropped. "No. Check Facebook. But maybe wait until after your interview. It's something." I thanked him and returned to the conference room, somehow managing to complete the interview, despite the phone continuing its incessant buzzing. The interviewer, bless her, pretended not to notice. Afterward, I sat in my car and opened Facebook with trembling fingers. Mom had indeed posted, and it was worse than I'd imagined. "To all our friends and family concerned about recent events, we're heartbroken by Sophie's decision to abandon her family. We've always tried to include her, but some people are determined to be victims. Please respect our privacy during this difficult time. P.S. Charlotte's marriage is stronger than ever, despite certain people's attempts to sabotage it." The comments there were more divided. Family friends who'd known us for years offered sympathy to my parents, but others, particularly those who'd witnessed the dynamic firsthand, were skeptical. Mrs. Patterson, who'd lived next door when we were kids, wrote, "Diane, I remember Sophie doing Charlotte's homework while Charlotte went to parties. Are you sure you're remembering things clearly? Mr. Rodriguez, my high school calculus teacher, added, Sophie was one of my best students. She mentioned once she couldn't attend the math team championship because family obligations came first. I always wondered what was more important than her future. Then the dam broke completely. A cousin I barely knew posted a video from Charlotte's Sweet 16. There I was in the background cleaning up while Charlotte opened presents. The caption, anyone else noticed Sophie working the whole party while everyone else celebrated. This was her birthday too. They're twins. We weren't twins. Charlotte was 2 years older. But the mistake sparked even more investigation. People started sharing memories, photos, observations they'd kept quiet about for years. The narrative Charlotte and Mom had tried to craft of me as the jealous, bitter sister crumbled under the weight of evidence they'd unknowingly provided themselves. By evening, Charlotte's Instagram was private, Mom's Facebook posts deleted. But the internet had already preserved everything. Then Eleanor Ashford entered the chat, so to speak. She posted a single statement on the Ashford Industries social media. In light of recent discoveries about character and truthfulness, the Ashford family will be reevaluating all personal and business relationships. Integrity remains our highest value. It was corporate speak for, we're done with the Winters family, and everyone knew it. My phone rang again. This time it was Dad. Sophie. His voice sounded older, tired. What have you done? I left a wedding where I was seated in a hallway. Everything else Charlotte and Mom did themselves. The Ashfords are pulling out of the merger. Your mother's charity committees are asking her to step down. Charlotte and Benjamin are getting an annulment, I know. Silence. Then, how could you do this to your family? Dad, I need you to answer one question honestly. Did you know where they seated me at the wedding? A longer silence. Yes. And you thought that was acceptable? I thought you wouldn't mind. You've always been so understanding. No, Dad. I've always been ignored. There's a difference. Sophie. I'm done having this conversation. I'm done explaining why I deserve basic respect. If you can't see that, then we have nothing to talk about. I hung up and turned off my phone. That night, I ordered takeout and watched the digital storm from my laptop. Charlotte had released another statement, this time through a Notes app screenshot, claiming she was being cyberbullied and that people didn't understand the complex dynamics of their family. It backfired spectacularly. Someone created a Twitter thread titled, Charlotte Winters Provides Receipts Against Herself, a Masterclass in Self-Destruction, that went viral. Every contradiction, every revealing photo, every instance of her accidentally proving my case was cataloged with devastating efficiency. The tweet that really took off was simple. Charlotte really posted photos of family Christmas where her sister has no presents and thought it made her look like the victim. The delusion is astronomical. By midnight it was trending. I should have felt vindicated. Instead, I just felt empty. This wasn't what I'd wanted. I just wanted a seat at the table, literally and figuratively. But in their determination to keep me out, they'd burned down the whole dining room. A knock at my door interrupted my thoughts. I found Mrs. Chen again, this time with tea. I saw the news on the internet, she said gently. My granddaughter showed me. Are you all right? I don't know, I admitted, accepting the tea gratefully. She nodded sagely. Sometimes, when we stop holding up a house built on sand, we're blamed for its collapse. But the fault lies with those who chose sand over solid ground. It doesn't feel like a victory. Because it isn't one. It's just truth finally having its day. Victory will come later when you build something better in its place. After she left, I sat with her words and her tea, watching the city lights twinkle beyond my window. Tomorrow, I had 2 more job interviews. This weekend, I was meeting with a realtor about condos in a different neighborhood, maybe even a different city. My family's house of cards had fallen, but I was already laying foundation stones for something sturdier. Something real. something mine. The video arrived in my inbox at 3 a.m. on Thursday, sent from an address I didn't recognize, truthaboutcharlotte@protonmail.com. I almost deleted it as spam, but something made me click. What I saw changed everything. It was security footage from the Fairmont Hotel date stamped from Charlotte's wedding. The angle showed the venue's service corridor my hallway, but also captured part of a storage room with its door ajar. Inside that room, Charlotte stood with three of her bridesmaids' champagne glasses in hand, all of them laughing. The audio was muffled but clear enough. "I can't believe she actually showed up." Charlotte giggled, already tipsy. "Did you see her face when she saw the table?" "Priceless." One bridesmaid agreed. "Though I felt kind of bad. The hallway seems harsh." Charlotte's expression hardened. "Please. She's lucky I invited her at all. Mom wanted to exclude her completely, but I said no, let her come. Let her see what she's missing. Let her sit out there and think about all the ways she's failed as a sister." Failed? What did she do? Charlotte took a long sip of champagne. Exist. She's always been this annoying reminder that I'm not the only daughter. Do you know how exhausting it's been making sure Mom and Dad remember who matters? Sophie pays some bills and suddenly thinks she's important. Please. Another bridesmaid looking uncomfortable. "But she does pay a lot of your parents' bills, right? Didn't you tell me she covered their mortgage last year when your dad lost his job?" "So what?" Charlotte snapped. "Money doesn't make you family. Besides, that's what she's supposed to do. The spare is supposed to support the heir. It's literally her only purpose." That's kind of medieval, Char. It's reality. Some of us are meant to shine, and some are meant to pay for the spotlight. Sophie's too stupid to realize she should be grateful I even acknowledge her existence. The conversation continued, each word more damning than the last. Charlotte detailed years of deliberate exclusion, manipulation, and gaslighting. She bragged about convincing their parents that I was difficult and jealous whenever I tried to assert myself. She laughed about destroying birthday cards I'd sent, deleting messages before their parents could see them, crafting a narrative where I was the problem. The best part, she slurred near the end, is that she still tries. She still shows up. She still hopes that maybe this time will be different. It's pathetic, really, but useful. Can't play the victim of a bitter sister if she doesn't show up to be bitter, right? The video ended with them toasting to keeping Sophie in her place. I stared at my laptop screen, numb. Then I watched it again. And again. By the fifth viewing, numbness had transformed into something else. Not anger, I was past that. This was colder, cleaner. This was clarity. Someone had sent me this video for a reason. Someone at that wedding had access to security footage and wanted the truth exposed. I thought of Eleanor Ashford's words. Sometimes the best decision is the one that takes us furthest from what's familiar. But first, the familiar needed to see itself clearly. I uploaded the video to a private YouTube link and composed an email to my family. Just my parents, Charlotte and Benjamin. No drama, no accusations. Just a subject line that read, "The truth," and a single sentence. "Someone sent me this. I thought you should see who Charlotte really is." Then I sent it and went back to bed. The calls started at 6 a.m. Mom first, incoherent with rage, not at Charlotte but at me for spreading lies. I let her rant to voicemail. Dad next, quieter but no less accusatory. "How could you fabricate something like this?" Charlotte's call, I actually answered, curious what she'd say. "You vindictive bitch," she hissed without preamble. "That video is edited. Fake. I'll sue you for defamation." "It's security footage, Charlotte, from the hotel. Date and time stamped." "I don't care what it is. You've ruined everything. Benjamin won't even look at me. His mother is filing for an annulment. The prenup." She cut herself off. "The prenup what?" Silence. Then in a smaller voice, "There's a fraud clause. If I entered the marriage under false pretenses, like marrying him for his money while planning to destroy his family. That's not I love Benjamin, the same way you love having a sister as something useful to manipulate. She hung up. The final call came from an unexpected source. Benjamin. Sophie. His voice was rough like he'd been crying. I need to know. Is this who she's always been? I could have lied, could have softened it, could have protected him from the full truth. But kindness without honesty isn't kind at all. Yes, I said gently. I'm sorry, Benjamin. You deserved better. My mother showed me the other things, the texts about me about her plans. A shaky breath. I feel so stupid. You're not stupid. Charlotte is very good at being who people want her to be. She's had a lifetime of practice. Why didn't you warn me? Would you have believed me? A long pause. No. I would have thought you were jealous. Just like she said. That's why. We sat in silence for a moment before he spoke again. The annulment papers will be filed Monday. Mom's lawyers think it's pretty straightforward given everything. I'm sorry it ended this way. Are you really? I considered the question. I'm sorry you're hurting, but I'm not sorry the truth came out. You deserve someone who loves you, not your bank account. Sophie. His voice cracked. Thank you for leaving the wedding. If you hadn't, if this had all stayed hidden, I might have wasted years on her. After we hung up, I made coffee and sat by my window watching Seattle wake up. My phone continued buzzing with messages, but I ignored them all. The truth was out there now, spreading like wildfire through the carefully curated garden of my family's reputation. By noon, the family group chat, the one I'd been removed from months ago, had somehow re-added me. The messages were a study in denial and blame, Mom. This is what happens when jealousy consumes someone. Sophie has destroyed our family. Aunt Patricia. I can't believe Sophie would create such an elaborate hoax. Charlotte. I'm consulting lawyers. This edited video is clearly illegal. Then a new participant, Eleanor Ashford. The video has been verified as authentic by 3 independent forensic analysts. I've shared the reports with all interested parties. Charlotte, I suggest you stop claiming defamation before you add perjury to fraud. The chat went silent after that. That evening, a package arrived. Inside was a bottle of expensive champagne and a card in Eleanor's distinctive handwriting for choosing truth over comfort. The job at the Morrison Foundation is yours if you want it. Sometimes the best revenge is a life well lived. E. I opened the champagne and poured a glass, toasting to the sunset painting my apartment in shades of gold and pink. Tomorrow I'd start packing. The Morrison Foundation was based in Portland, far enough for a fresh start, close enough that I wasn't running away. My phone rang one last time. Mom again. This time I answered. Sophie. Her voice was different now, smaller. The video is real. We both know it. She didn't mean those things. She was drunk. She was stressed. Mom, stop. Just stop. Charlotte meant every word, and you know it. You've always known it. You just chose her anyway. I chose both my daughters. No. You chose the easier daughter. The one who made you feel important. The one who needed you in all the ways that made you feel like a good mother. And you threw away the daughter who inconveniently expected to be loved without having to perform for it. Silence stretched between us, years of unspoken truths, finally given voice. What do you want me to say? She whispered. Nothing. There's nothing left to say. Charlotte showed you who she was, and you loved her for it. I showed you who I was, and you punished me for it. We both have to live with that. Sophie, please. Goodbye, Mom. I hung up and blocked the number. Then I did the same for Dad, Charlotte, and every relative who'd spent years enabling this dysfunction. The champagne was crisp and cool against my throat as I watched the city lights begin to twinkle. Somewhere across town, my family was dealing with the wreckage of their carefully constructed lies. Charlotte's marriage was over before it began. Mom's social standing was in ruins. Dad's business merger had evaporated. But that wasn't my wreckage to clean up anymore. It never had been. The certified letter arrived on a Tuesday morning 3 weeks after the wedding that wasn't. I recognized the law firm's name, Ashford Kellerman and Associates, Eleanor's family firm. Inside were two documents. The first was a formal notice that Benjamin had filed for annulment on grounds of fraud. The second was a subpoena. They wanted me to testify. I called the number on the letterhead and was immediately transferred to Eleanor's personal line. Sophie, I trust you received our correspondence. I did, but I'm not sure I understand why you need me. Charlotte is contesting the annulment. She's claiming the video was doctored, that she was coerced into saying those things, that she's the victim of a conspiracy between you and me to destroy her marriage. I almost laughed. Of course she is. Her lawyers are creative. They're painting a picture of a jealous sister and a controlling mother-in-law working together to sabotage true love. It's absurd, but juries eat up these narratives. What do you need from me? The truth. On record. Under oath. Your testimony about Charlotte's pattern of behavior, the family dynamics, the systematic exclusion. Everything. I stared out my window at the Seattle skyline, gray and drizzling as always. When? Next Thursday, 2 p.m. Will you do it? Yes. Sophie. Eleanor's voice softened. I know this isn't easy, but Benjamin needs this. He needs to be free of her completely. I understand. I'll be there. The week passed in a blur of preparation. Eleanor's lawyers coached me on what to expect, but they needn't have bothered. I wasn't planning to lie or embellish. The truth was damning enough. Thursday arrived cold and bright. I dressed carefully, a charcoal suit that meant business, minimal jewelry, hair pulled back. I looked like what I was, a professional woman with nothing to hide. The courthouse was a monument to justice's slow grind, all marble floors and echoing corridors. I found the right courtroom and slipped inside, taking a seat in the back. Charlotte was already there, dressed in a demure pink dress that screamed, "Innocent victim." Her lawyer, a shark in a $1,000 suit, whispered urgently in her ear. Across the aisle, Benjamin sat with Eleanor and their legal team. He looked older somehow, worn down by the revelation of who he'd almost tied his life to. Mom and Dad were there too, sitting behind Charlotte like loyal soldiers. Mom caught my eye and quickly looked away. Dad didn't even try. All rise for the Honorable Judge Patricia Kellaway. The judge was a no-nonsense woman in her 60s, who looked like she'd seen every sob story and manipulation tactic in the book. She reviewed the papers before her with sharp eyes. This is a hearing on the petition for annulment filed by Benjamin Ashford against Charlotte Wynne. Excuse me, Charlotte Ashford. Are all parties present? The lawyers confirmed and the hearing began. Charlotte's lawyer went first, painting a picture of young love destroyed by jealous relatives. He presented Charlotte as a victim of her sister's envy, of her mother-in-law's classism, of an orchestrated campaign to humiliate her. The video in question, he argued, was obtained illegally and possibly doctored. My client was intoxicated, stressed, and venting to friends in what she believed was a private moment. Haven't we all said things we don't mean when we're emotional? Then it was Benjamin's lawyer's turn. She methodically presented evidence, the security footage verified by experts, the text messages about trading up, the prenup Charlotte had tried to contest before the ink was dry, the wedding vendor testimonies about her behavior. This isn't about a momentary lapse in judgment, she stated. This is about a pattern of deception designed to gain access to the Ashford family fortune. Then they called me to testify. Walking to the witness stand felt like crossing a bridge from one life to another, from silence to truth. I placed my hand on the Bible and swore to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth. So I did. I told them about the notebook, about years of being erased from family narratives. I told them about birthdays, forgotten achievements, ignored sacrifices expected but never acknowledged. I told them about the hallway table and what it represented, not just a seating arrangement, but a lifetime of being told I didn't belong. Ms. Winters, Benjamin's lawyer asked, in your opinion, was Charlotte's behavior at the wedding consistent with her past treatment of you? Yes. Charlotte has always believed that some people matter and others exist to serve those who matter. I was in the second category. So was Benjamin eventually. The only difference was that he had something she wanted. Objection. Charlotte's lawyer stood. The witness is speculating about my client's feelings toward her husband. Sustained. Please stick to what you personally observed, Ms. Winters. I nodded. Charlotte told me when we were teenagers that the point of marriage was to marry up. She said love was for people who couldn't strategize. She said, that was years ago. Charlotte burst out, ignoring her lawyer's attempts to quiet her. People change. Judge Kellaway's gavel came down hard. Ms. Ashford, you will remain silent unless addressed directly. Continue, Ms. Winters. She said the smartest thing a woman could do was find a man with money and convince him she was worth it. Not be worth it, convince him. There's a difference. And did Charlotte ever express specific intentions regarding Benjamin Ashford? I met Charlotte's eyes across the courtroom. 2 weeks before she introduced him to the family, she told me she'd found her golden ticket. She said his mother would be a problem, but nothing she couldn't handle once the ring was on her finger. The courtroom was silent except for the court reporter's steady typing. No further questions. Charlotte's lawyer stood for cross-examination. Ms. Winters, isn't it true that you've been estranged from your family for years? No, I've been excluded by my family for years. There's a difference. You left your sister's wedding reception, walked out without a word. I left after being seated in a service hallway, yes. And you've harbored resentment about this ever since. No, I've harbored clarity about it ever since. He tried several more angles, but the truth is a difficult thing to twist when you are committed to it. Every question designed to paint me as bitter or vengeful only highlighted the pattern of treatment that led to this moment. Finally, Judge Kellaway had heard enough. I've reviewed all the evidence presented, she said, her voice cutting through the tension. The video evidence is compelling and verified as authentic. The documentary evidence supports a pattern of deception. The witness testimony is credible and consistent. She looked directly at Charlotte. Ms. Ashford, marriages must be entered into honestly and in good faith. The evidence clearly shows you entered this marriage with the intent to defraud your husband and his family. You spoke of trading up and gaining control of family assets. You expressed contempt for your husband and his mother while pretending affection to their faces. Charlotte's lawyer started to object, but the judge raised her hand. Furthermore, your treatment of your sister, while not directly relevant to the marriage, speaks to a pattern of manipulation and cruelty that supports the plaintiff's case. The fact that you would seat your own sister in a service hallway at your wedding, then claim to be a victim when she refused to accept such treatment, demonstrates a profound lack of character. Mom made a small sound of protest. The judge's eyes found her. And those who enable such behavior bear their own responsibility for its consequences. The gavel came down with finality. The petition for annulment is granted on grounds of fraud. The marriage between Benjamin Ashford and Charlotte Ashford is declared null and void. Any claims to marital assets are dismissed with prejudice. Court is adjourned. The courtroom erupted. Charlotte sobbed, whether from genuine emotion or performance, I couldn't tell. Mom rushed to comfort her while Dad sat frozen in place. Benjamin sagged with relief as Eleanor placed a protective hand on his shoulder. I slipped out during the commotion, but Charlotte's voice followed me into the hallway. This is all your fault? You destroyed my life. You jealous, pathetic Charlotte. Benjamin's voice stronger than I'd ever heard it. Stop. Sophie didn't destroy your life. You did. You destroyed mine too, but at least I found out before it was too late. I didn't stay to hear more. There was nothing left to say. Outside the courthouse, Eleanor caught up with me. Thank you, she said simply. I know that wasn't easy. It was necessary. She studied me with those sharp eyes. The job offer stands. Portland could be a fresh start. I already accepted. I start next month. A small smile crossed her face. Good. You deserve to build something of your own, Sophie. Something no one can take away. As I walked to my car, my phone buzzed with messages I wouldn't read from numbers I'd already blocked. Behind me, I could hear Charlotte's voice rising in hysteria, Mom's attempts to soothe Dad's silence speaking volumes. But that wasn't my circus anymore. Those weren't my monkeys. I had a life to pack up, and a new city waiting. I had job interviews to prepare for and apartments to view. I had a future that didn't include sitting in hallways waiting to be invited in. The October sun broke through Seattle's perpetual clouds as I drove away from the courthouse. It felt like a sign, even though I didn't believe in signs. Sometimes the end of one story is just the beginning of another. Sometimes walking away is the only way forward. Sometimes the best seat in the house is the one you build for yourself. 6 months later, Portland rain sounds different than Seattle rain. Softer somehow, less insistent. I stood at the floor-to-ceiling windows of my new office, watching it pattern the streets below, a cup of coffee warming my hands. Sophie. My assistant knocked gently. Your 3 p.m. is here. Send them in, thanks. I turned from the window, straightening my blazer. 6 months at the Morrison Foundation had transformed me in ways I was still discovering. The girl who used to shrink herself to fit in others' shadows wouldn't recognize the woman who now ran an entire grants division. But my 3 p.m. appointment would. Eleanor Ashford entered impeccable as always in winter white. She'd become something between a mentor and a friend, an unexpected gift from an ugly situation. Sophie, you look well. Eleanor, how was the flight? Short. Benjamin sends his regards, by the way. He's doing much better. We settled into the comfortable chairs I'd chosen for my office. None of the stiff formality of corporate boardrooms, just warm wood and soft fabrics, a space that invited honesty. How is he really? I asked. Eleanor's smile was genuine. He's in therapy, which is helping. He's dating again cautiously. Someone from his hiking group. A teacher. Very different from... She trailed off. From Charlotte. Yes. And you... I heard through the grapevine there were some... developments? I knew what she was referring to. Small towns and smaller social circles meant news traveled fast even across state lines. Mom called last week, I admitted. First time since the trial. Eleanor's eyebrows rose slightly. And she wanted to reconcile. Said she's been in therapy, realized her mistakes. Charlotte moved back home after the annulment, and apparently it's been illuminating. I imagine Charlotte without a facade is quite different from Charlotte the performer. Mom used the word nightmare, said she finally understands what I dealt with for years. I set down my coffee cup. She asked if I'd come for Easter. Will you? I'd been asking myself the same question all week. No. Some bridges once burned can't be rebuilt. And honestly, I don't want to rebuild them. I've built something better here. Eleanor nodded approvingly. Boundaries aren't walls, Sophie. They're the foundation of healthy relationships. Is that why you're really here, to check on my boundary-setting skills? She laughed, a genuine sound that had taken months to hear. Partially. But also to bring you this. She handed me an envelope. Inside was an invitation, thick cardstock, elegant without being ostentatious. Benjamin's engagement party, she explained. Small gathering. He specifically asked if you'd come. Said you're part of the reason he learned to spot red flags. That's kind of him, but Charlotte won't be there, Eleanor added dryly. I doubt she's even aware it's happening. Your mother certainly won't be invited. I fingered the invitation thinking. 6 months ago, I would have automatically declined, too afraid of stirring up drama. But that Sophie had been left in a hallway in Seattle. I'll think about it, I said finally. Eleanor smiled. That's all anyone can ask. After she left, I returned to my window watching Portland go about its Thursday afternoon business. My phone buzzed a text from Marcus, now living in San Francisco, sharing a meme about toxic families that made me laugh despite myself. Another buzz. This time from a number I didn't recognize with a Seattle area code. Sophie, this is Dad. I know you've blocked my other number. I won't bother you again after this. I just wanted you to know I'm sorry. Not for Charlotte or your mother, but for me. For being too weak to stand up for you. For choosing comfort over courage. You deserved better. You deserved a father who saw you. I see you now, even if it's too late. Be well. I stared at the message for a long time. Then I deleted it. Not out of anger, but because some apologies are more for the person giving them than receiving them. And I was done carrying other people's emotional baggage. My assistant knocked again. The team meeting in 5. Be right there. I gathered my files for the meeting plans for a new grant program supporting young women aging out of foster care. Girls who knew what it was like to be invisible, to be told they should be grateful for scraps. As I headed to the conference room, I passed the wall of photos showcasing the foundation's work. In one corner was a picture from last month's gala, me shaking hands with the governor presenting our Community Impact Award. Charlotte would hate that I hadn't invited her to share the spotlight. Mom would claim credit for my success somehow. Dad would stay silent. But none of that mattered anymore. They were characters in a story I'd stopped writing. Lessons learned, not luggage carried. The conference room was full of my team, bright, passionate people who judged me on my work, not my willingness to disappear. We spent the next 2 hours building something meaningful, something that would outlast any family drama. That evening, I walked home through the Pearl District, stopping at my favorite bookstore, grabbing Thai food from the place that knew my order. My apartment exposed brick-tall windows filled with plants. Charlotte would say I couldn't keep alive, welcomed me home. I poured a glass of wine and curled up on my couch, rain pattering against the windows. My phone was quiet. No dramatic texts, no guilt-tripping voicemails, no family emergencies that required my immediate sacrifice. Just peace. Just possibility. I picked up Eleanor's invitation again, running my finger over the embossed lettering. Maybe I would go. Not to prove anything or make a statement, but because Benjamin was a good person who deserved support from those who understood the particular pain of loving someone incapable of loving you back. Or maybe I wouldn't. The beautiful thing about boundaries was that I got to choose. My laptop chimed with an email. The publisher who'd reached out last month, interested in my essay about family estrangement and self-preservation. They wanted to move forward, maybe expand it into a book. When no contact is self-care. A memoir. I liked the sound of that. Outside, Portland rain continued its gentle percussion. Inside, I opened a new document and began typing. My name is Sophie, and this is the story of how I learned that sometimes the most loving thing you can do for yourself and others is leave. The words flowed easily now, truth no longer tangled up in obligation. Somewhere in Seattle, my family was probably gathered around their dinner table, the hierarchy firmly in place, the scapegoat's chair empty. Let them notice the absence. Let them feel the weight of the space I used to fill. I had my own table now, my own life, my own story. And for the first time in 28 years, I was exactly where I belonged. Sometimes walking away from family isn't giving up, it's growing up. Have you ever had to choose between family loyalty and self-preservation? What did you choose, and how did it change you? I'd love to hear your story in the comments below. And remember, the family you choose is just as real as the family you're born into. Sometimes more so.